Thanks for your company. The details now. The opposition National Democratic Congress is appealing to government to impose a ban on the importation of arms into the country until emerging security threats such as terrorism, contract killings and vigilantism are dealt with. In a statement issued Wednesday evening, the party said it is alarmed over government's decision to permit the recent importation of a large cache of arms into the country last week. Last week, customs officers at the Tema port raised concerns over some imported goods and seized the arms briefly for inspection. They later discovered the unnamed importer had an Interior Ministry issued license to bring the arms into the country. Now, the NDC wants government to properly track the distribution of those imported arms. Let me bring you more extracts of that statement. So it says the attention of the NDC has been drawn to the importation of a large cache of pump action and shotguns into the country for private use, apparently by licensed persons. The said weapons were intercepted by customs officers at the Tema port on Friday, May 10, 2019. Although police investigations appear to point to the fact that the firearms were imported under the license of the Interior Ministry, the NDC is alarmed by government's decision to authorize such importation at a time when the country is grappling with the threats of terrorism on our northern frontier, pervasive vigilantism, and unmitigated armed robberies across the length and breadth of the country. And it continues to say, and as if this is not fearful enough, there are further reports emerging of at least 9 more containers full of weapons and apparently owned by the same person being cleared at the port. There's no denying the fact that easy access to small arms and light weapons fuels criminal activities such as armed robbery and terrorism. We are also mindful of research findings that suggest that there are, at the moment, nearly 2 million small arms in unlawful circulation in Ghana, a situation which does not augur well for our peace and security. Now, in concluding that statement, the NDC says that it is against the backdrop of this that it wishes to admonish the government of President Akufo-Addo to track the sale and purchase of the weapons in question and to ensure that they do not end up in the hands of bandits, hoodlums and vigilantes. In addition, the government must ensure that only persons who have satisfied the requirements stipulated under the Arms and Ammunition Act 1972 are permitted to purchase and own the weapons in question. The government may want to consider the option of placing a moratorium on the importation of arms until emerging security threats such as terrorism, contract killings, armed robberies and vigilantism are adequately addressed, and is signed by Kakra Isamwa. He is Communications Director of the NDC. Now, Colonel Festus Boahin Abuaje, retired, joins me on the telephone for more on this. Good to have you here, sir. Thank you so much. What do you make of this call by the NDC?
Well, good morning, Bernice.
Good morning.
I would wish to suggest that the statement by the NDC should be accepted in good faith by the authorities. I want to be very cautious in understanding the motivation or motivations for the NDC statement. But the aggregate of the regional insecurity, the state of crime within the country, the recent incident at Ayawaso, I think constitutes sufficient grounds for them to make this case. But all I can say is that that case must be taken in good faith. Having said that, it's a bit difficult in the absence of hard data to put the statement into perspective. As far as I'm concerned, the police information on their website, the Central Firearms Registry, only tells us about the importation of about 4,500 firearms way back in 2012. Now, we have no information on how many weapons were licensed 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, and as of now. Now, you go to the website of the Commission, National Commission on Firearms or Small Arms, and their page on firearms, on data, on control, on everything is just blank. So again, you have no sense of how many types, categories of weapons might have been imported into the country. And it gives a bit of concern for worry that we are on the blind side and we have no idea as to the numbers and types of weapons in circulation, how they are being controlled, and so on and so forth. So bottom line, I think the government must accept this in good faith. And I would actually support the call for the moratorium to give us a breathing space to sanitize the environment and to create that sense of peace, sense of confidence, sense of stability, especially in the run-up to the 2020 elections.
Can I retire? Would you say we are sitting on a time bomb?
The whole idea of weapons is that any weapons that is in a system is likely to be used at one time or the other. And it is always, the concern that they might fall into illegal hands. I've had occasion to mention that when I was in South Africa, I was aware that all gun owners were by law, South African law, also required to purchase safes within which the weapons were to be housed. Now, in this country, I'm not aware that there is any law that requires a gun owner to keep guns within safes locked, and only brought out by the person who is licensed to use the weapon, when the weapon is about to be used or maybe cleaned or whatever it is. So the law itself probably may have a few loopholes, and by law I mean the NRC decree, I think 9 of 1972, and then the earlier act that dates back to 1962. We need to review these laws. I mean, 1972 is a long time ago. Technologies have been advanced. The state and modes of crimes have increased. Weapons, transnational transportation, manufacture, stockpile, whatever, have all, been compounded. So I wouldn't say that we're sitting on a time bomb. But the larger the number of weapons that we have in circulation, legally as well as illegally, the likelihood that these weapons will be used for criminal purposes or purposes other than the legal reasons why they were licensed.
You've supported the call for a ban on the importation of firearms while we deal with existing security issues in the country. What do we do within the period of the ban to really make sure that it's effective? In times past, we've had reports saying that Ghana has become a hub for the spread of arms in the sub-region. A lot of our security experts expressed a lot of worry about that. Recently, we've heard of this threat of some jihadists probably coming into the country. We've also been told that Ghana is also a transit point for arms. It's very disturbing for people who may not have the capacity themselves to protect themselves. So I'm asking that while the ban is in place, what should we be doing so that it's effective and we can really sanitize the system?
Well, probably we should go with the terminology that was used in the statement, which is a moratorium. So a moratorium is the period within which, the importation and licensing of small arms are put on hold. For us, as intended in the statement, to take stock, to review the stocks of arms and ammunition within the country, to review the ownerships of these weapons, to have a fair estimate of those that are illegally circulating. And all of these, to a very large extent, will depend on work that is done by centers like the Kofi Annan, Center. I believe OneF does a bit of that also, plus some other, civil society, policy research centers, to have a national dialogue and to come to a consensus as to how effectively we're going to manage the control of the small arms that are in circulation, especially the illegal ones, and then to remind the legal owners of firearms of their responsibilities to make sure that those weapons are in safe hands and are not used for criminal purposes. It helps to create an environment of confidence in national peace and stability.
Yeah.
And that, I think, probably is the best dividend, beyond any sense of how many weapons and so on that we may be able to retrieve from circulation. But we need that dialogue. We need civic education to create awareness about the importation and licensing regimes of firearms in this country.
Colonel, we've had a lot of programs. We had Cash for Arms. We tried to get weapons from people who had them illegally and tried to pay them off. There was quite some success. Some arms were burned, but we are still told that there are millions of them in circulation at the moment. In November last year, the president met with the Small Arms Commission and asked them to deal with the proliferation of small arms in the country. He did admit at the meeting that there is a bit of struggle when it comes to finances and financially supporting the commission in doing its work as it should be. Can we really deal with this without a lot of financial investment?
Well, we have a tendency as human beings, generally, to attribute our lack of inaction to financial constraints. But I believe in the work around control of firearms importation, stockpiling, manufacture, and so on and so forth, it is not only about funds. It's about the stringent enforcement of the laws that have been established to control firearms. So let's take the licensing, for instance, which requires, at least the NLC decree requires that there should be background checks. So the CID, which has presence in many parts of this country, does not need money. If I say, Professor Abuaje, I reside in Ashanti region in a certain village, police CID from Accra does not need to come to the village. They have resources close to where I am to deploy, to the college that I attended, to where I was employed for about 30 years. We have embassies in countries where I had lived, say, South Africa and Kenya. And to come to a sense of whether I indulge myself in any criminal activity. Indeed, when I was going to Burundi and South Africa, I was required by Burundi and South African law to provide criminal investigation clearance. So I had to come to CI to obtain that clearance. That is the enforcement of the law. It's not all about money, but granted that we need equipment, we need to maintain the equipment, we need to train the personnel, recruit new ones because some are retiring. There is money involved. But beyond that, you go to websites, as I've suggested, and you draw a blank on many pages, beautiful websites for the police, for the Small Arms Commission. Are we saying that within the Ministry of Interior, Small Arms Commission, we don't have the resources to type data that have been acquired from different sources over time, or in collaboration with the police or other security agencies like Customs and Immigration? So the inaction may not always be as a result of lack of funding. It's just that sometimes we all go to sleep and we forget about what it is that we're supposed to do. And then it's also not the case that you'll be able to do 100% of what it is that you are required to do. But if from 2012, as I indicated, you don't have any data on how many weapons and types were licensed for Ghanaians to use since 2012, is it a matter of funding? It's not a matter of funding. You just walk next door from Police HQ to the CID headquarters there, and you've got all the data there. You see, so the compilation and the presentation of the data is where the problem is. It's an institutional lacuna more than the lack of funds. You see, so we need to do a bit more. But I will concede that we also need money. But money is not the only reason why, or the lack of money should not be the only reason why we are not able to meet our institutional obligations.
Thank you very much for your time this morning, Colonel. But before I let you go, just a quick, brief comment on churches and security. We've been speaking to quite a number of church leaders, and they're hoping to step up security to deal with the possible terrorist attacks. We had some alerts a week ago. What would you like to tell churches and people who fellowship every Sunday on how to, manage themselves and deal with this situation generally? It appears we lost Colonel Festus Boahene-Boate, retired there, but he was talking to us basically about the NDC's call for the presidency or government to impose a moratorium on the importation of arms for now.